What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is the Juice from Clarks Hill. So we had a great event at Clarks Hill. We finished in 7th place overall. Can't beat that at all. Overall, it was a great event, even though I made a little bit of a bonehead mistake the first day. Thankfully, it didn't cost me too much. We made up for it, and I had a great event. Like I said, finished 7th place. So this video is the Juice. This is my recap video where I dive into all the tackle, rods, reels, lines, baits, even some patterns that I used to fish in this tournament. This was Clarks Hill, beginning of March. The weather was warm. The bass were wanting to push to the shallows. They were wanting to spawn. Some of them were still out deep. It was a little bit of everything going on, but today we're going to dive in and we're going to talk about all the equipment that I used. But the Juice is presented by Fish USA. So if you guys aren't familiar with Fish USA, Fish USA is a huge online tackle retailer. They got everything you could ever want fishing, not just bass fishing, everything you could ever want for fishing. Bluegill, trout, panfish, doesn't matter. They got it in stock on their website. If you go there, place order, you're gonna have it in a couple of days. Super fast shipping and great prices, great selection of stuff. So if any of you guys need any tackle, do me a favor, click the links in the description down below. I'm gonna have direct links in the description of this tackle that I used right here. So if you want any of these baits, just check those links down there and you can head right over to Fish USA and pick them up. All right, so let's dive into the tournament. Like I said, Clarks Hill Lake, beginning of March, the bass had spawning on their mind. They're pushing their way shallow. So we got there and we were faced with a little bit different conditions. The water was a little bit dirtier than I expected and definitely warmer than I expected. So immediately I'm thinking, I got to get on the bank and start fishing the bank and looking shallow. And I got a few bites doing that in practice. So starting the tournament, I had planned on running up the river into some dirtier water, which is totally against everything that I like to do. It just felt weird doing it, but that's what I felt like was my best chance to catch some big fish. So I ran up the river and was throwing around a spinnerbait and a crankbait. So we were throwing this here. This is just I believe it's just a War Eagle spinnerbait. Just kind of a chartreuse shad color. Just putting a little trailer on there just to bulk up the profile a little bit, and was throwing this around some laydowns and was able to catch a lot of fish in practice on this, but during the tournament I'm not sure I caught one on the spinnerbait. I think they got off of the spinnerbait as the water cleared up a little bit and they started to actually spawn a little bit. So I can't remember if I caught 1 or 2 on the spinnerbait during the tournament, but the first morning while I was up there, I did a little bit of cranking on some of the main lake points and was able to catch one of the key fish that I weighed in during the week for sure and fill out a limit. I was able to catch 5 fish up there, but one big one that I definitely weighed in on just a little red crankbait. This is the Bill Lewis MR6. You can see he is beat up. He has been bouncing around in the rocks and still super durable, not gonna break that bill off. But this is an excellent little springtime crankbait. Threw this around, caught like a nice quality largemouth and a limit of spots to go with it. But was throwing that on 12-pound Seaguar Abrazex fluorocarbon. I like that Abrazex when I'm cranking in that gnarly rock just because it's a little more abrasion resistant, so it helps with your line fraying when you get in that real gnarly rock. And this is my new favorite crankbait rod, especially these small ones. This is the favorite 6-stick Brian Latimer signature series, 7'2", medium heavy. Excellent little crankbait rod like this. It handles those big fish well, and it's super moderate action, so you can fight the fish with the treble hooks and not rip them out of their mouth. So that was basically day one, and especially the morning of day one. So like I said, I had planned on spending my whole tournament up there, but about 12 o'clock on that first day, I'm sitting on 5 fish for about 8 pounds, and that's with one close to 4 pounds. So I decided to make a move and run back down to the lake, down to the lower end of the lake, some clean the water and start fishing some brush piles and just try and salvage the day and upgrade my bag a little bit. And I got into a school of fish that I had found in practice around a brush pile, but they had kind of slid off of the brush pile a little bit the tournament day, and I was able to catch a bunch of fish in that last 2 hours of the day on a little Damiki rig. So this was a 1/4 ounce jig head. I'm not even sure what jig head this is here. And then was adding the little 3-inch shad shaped worm in green gizzard color and just dropping that on their head and holding it there. You know, little tip on throwing a Damiki rig is you always want to tie a loop knot there. I don't know if you can see that, but that loop knot allows that bait to have so much more action. You know, your knot is not holding the jig head in a certain direction. That loop knot allows so much freedom. So as that's sitting there in front of their face, you know, it's rocking a little bit, and it always sits perfectly natural thanks to that loop knot. So that's very important. But I was using 8-pound Seaguar Tatsu fluorocarbon leader down to my 15-pound Seaguar Smackdown braid. And of course throwing it on my favorite Hex 7.2 medium heavy spinning rod. You guys see me use this combo everywhere around the country. But the Damiki rig, really, probably the most important bait in my tournament was this right here, the Damiki rig with the shad shaped worm. So I was able to catch a whole bunch of fish that afternoon on the Damiki. I was able to catch 3 more big ones and a bunch of small ones, but for some reason I made a bonehead move and forgot to call on my last big fish that I caught. So it dropped me from 15 pounds, 2-pound penalty, down to 13 pounds. So day one I was sitting in, I think, 40 something place after the penalty. So I was really excited to get back out there for day 2 because I'd found these fish in the afternoon. They'd moved a little bit. So starting day 2, I went directly to where I ended the day and dropped the Damiki on their head and caught them really quick. You know, I caught 13 or 14 pounds really in like the first hour of the day on the Damiki rig. Pretty much everyone came on the Damiki rig, but I started catching a bunch of fish again. And as the day went on, they started getting a little bit smarter to my tricks. You know, I caught a bunch of them there, and they're starting to just look at my bait and follow it a little bit. So I pulled out a little trick. This is just a little Japanese bait that I rigged up on a crappie jig head. Okay, so I did that. I dropped down to 6-pound Seaguar Gold Label. You know, there was no wind, it was sunny, slick, and these fish were getting pressured from me catching them all. So I dropped down to this little bait with a little tiny, I think this is a 3/32 ounce jig head, super light line. And this is actually on a different rod as well. So this is the favorite Hex. This is the 610 medium. Honestly, this was actually my crappie setup. I've been using this to catch crappie all fall and spring so far, winter. And I had it in the boat just for that situation if I needed a real small finesse bait. So rigged that up and I was able to catch a couple key fish, especially later in the day and the afternoon on the little bit smaller finesse Damiki rig there. And so that was day 2. That pretty much, I think I weighed in 16 pounds, and that moved me up to 20-something place, I believe, heading into day 3. So we made the day 3 cut. We're heading into day 3. The weather changed, of course. So we get out there day 3, and the wind is blowing directly into where I've been catching them the last 2 days. The pollen is falling. It's all stirred up in the water, so I can't see anything on my live scope. I think I catch one spot on the Damiki rig and you know, fish around my 10 brush piles that I was fishing, and I just couldn't make it happen. So I decided to scrap all that and just gonna go fishing down the bank, fishing in some pockets, fishing shallow for the rest of the day and see what happens. So I run into a little pocket and start throwing a jerkbait. This is just one of my favorite little jerkbaits, discontinued, they don't make it anymore. But was throwing it on the favorite 6-stick B-Lat series again, but this is the 610 medium. You know, I started using this rod this year for these jerkbaits, and I gotta say, this is my new favorite jerkbait rod. It is awesome for throwing a little jerkbait like that. But I started throwing that, and caught a giant fish. I caught a 7-pounder. I think it was the biggest fish of day 3. So that really got me going. You know, at that point I had 2 fish for 9 pounds. I slide back in this pocket and start throwing around a little wacky rig with a Yamamoto Senko, of course. I was throwing a couple different colors, 5-inch, watermelon red, green pumpkin, purple and copper, a couple different, you know, bluegill imitating colors. Throwing it on the Trokar TK137 wacky hook right there with the weed guard because I was throwing it around some wood. This one I went with 10-pound Seaguar Tatsu leader down to 15-pound smackdown braid on the same spinning rod, the 7'2" medium heavy hex. But started throwing that around and caught a few more fish. I think I filled out my limit with that. So sitting on a good limit with a kicker, and I had nothing else to do. So you know what? I was like, I'm gonna pull out this guy and just go throw it around the rest of the day and see if we can't come up with 2 more fish. So pulled out the 6-inch mag draft and started throwing it around any piece of cover on the bank, a lay down, some rocks, whatever it may be, and was able to catch 2 quality fish, a 4-pounder and a 3-pounder, and call up to 19 pounds the final day, and that jumped me all the way up into 7th place to end the tournament. But I like throwing the mag draft on 15-pound Seaguar and VizX fluorocarbon. I really like 15-pound. It allows the bait to get a little bit deeper and work a little bit better. Helps it wiggle a little bit better because that line's not too thick. And then just throwing it on the favorite hex, 7.6 heavy. You know, that's my all-around good multi-purpose rod that I use for a little bit of everything. So that right there, guys, that's all the baits that I use to catch some bass on Clark's Hill. So appreciate you guys watching. Like I said earlier, check the description down below for links direct to Fish USA. I appreciate you guys clicking those links. We see it. We appreciate you. I can see every time you guys use those links. So I really appreciate you guys out there doing that. Leave me a likes, comments down below. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you guys next time.